Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let's wait for a couple of minutes so people let's connect and start in 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, see you. Okay, so let's start with the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Carlos Martinez. I'm responsible for the training department of SODECA, and today we will have the last, until now, session of our microlearning program. You know, this program just 30 minutes, quickly information and news about ventilation systems and about indoor air quality. So today we are going to talk about radon. It's an unknown pollutant that is really dangerous for us. How we will see in the future slides. So as always, we will have a question time at the end of the presentation, and I will share with you this presentation for you to have. So if you have any question during the presentation, you can write down in the control panel you have on your right. So let's start with this last presentation, last microlearning session. Um, Let me introduce you to two of the most infamous serial killers in the history. The first one is Jeffrey Dahmer. Is now like the Milwaukee's monster. Some of you probably knows because Netflix have a really good series about his life, about his crimes. He killed 17 teenagers in the decade of 18th and the 19th, and it was really shocking for the society. And the other one is Harold Shipman, Dr. Death. Um, as we know, is the most important or the most infamous serial killer because he killed almost 200 people in the 200 patients in the hospital he worked in these days. As you can imagine, these crimes affect, shock the society because of the numbers, because of the cruelty. But imagine for a moment that we are living nowadays with another serial killer with much impact, much impact in our lives, in our health, and we simply, think that it's not necessary to take any projects or to take any systems to get rid of them. Okay, so this is a reality. We live nowadays with radon, that is the silent killer. Imagine for a moment the numbers related with deaths related with this pollutant, with radon. We were talking until a couple of minutes of 200 deaths by Harold Shipman, but the World Human Organization calculate that there are 226,000 deaths per year related with radon, related with the overexposure to this radioactive gas. So that numbers are really related with our health, really related with our life expectancy, and we need to switch our brain. We need to start thinking about our head and about what is or where are the dangers for us. Okay. Um, let's see some numbers related with radon to see the big picture about this pollutant. Okay. um, World Health Organization calculate that 40% of lung cancers are related worldwide with radon. Okay, it's the second most common case, only to tobacco. To tobacco. If we saw the most common cancers around the world, we can see that the lung cancer is the second most common type of cancer. So radon is the second most common case of the second most common type of cancer. That are the magnitude, that are the size of the problem with radon. Okay, just in Spain, we calculate that 4% of all lung cancer deaths are related with radon, are radon related. And if you are a person that smokes and you has been exposed to radon, the probability to develop lung cancer is multiplied by 10. So that are the numbers, that are the big picture about radon. And as you can see, we probably underestimate the danger of radon for us, the danger of being in the same space of this gas. So let's talk about this switch I was talking about for you. This switch we need to do in our brain to understand that our diseases, our problems, health problems, are not mostly related with genetic. Okay, it's not matter of bad luck. Normally, as you can see in this graph, are related with our environment or our lifestyle. So we can decide, we can choose the life we need to live. And our diseases, our health problem will be related with our buildings, our environment, our jobs, and our lifestyle. So we need to pay attention to these things. We need to pay attention to for example, this radon problem. At the same way, we need to pay attention to the disease factors. We need to pay attention also to the life expectancy in our countries. Because if we see the big picture, if we observe, for example, this graph, we can see that in question of one decade, one century, sorry, we improve our life expectancy. We double our life expectancy, for example, here in Spain. In the earliest 19, at the beginning of the century, the life expectancy in Spain was 40 years old. But nowadays we are in the numbers of 80 years old. So that's because we improve a lot of things in our life. We improve the way we eat, the way we drink better water, the way we build our houses, the way we breathe. So it's so important to pay attention to these factors. It's so important to switch off our brain and to understand that we have the power to decide how we need, how we want to live, and the things we need to pay attention in order to improve our health. Okay. So let's talk about radon. Let's talk about this natural pollutant. This time is not our fault. Okay, it's not a human pollutant. It's a natural pollutant that normally is present in some kind of soils around the world. Okay, if we divide the types of soils around the world, generally speaking, we will find these granitic soils with high contents of uranium. Okay, uranium is also a radioactive element, and because of this, can decay in this radon gas. Okay, radon from the soils normally is capable to go through the cracks present in the foundation of our houses, of our buildings, and accumulate in indoor spaces. Okay, normally in the lowest floors of our buildings, the floors, for example, in direct contact with the foundation or with the soil, but in some kind of buildings, not only in dwellings. Because normally I don't know why, but traditionally we had pay attention to the dwellings, but radon is also a problem in some type of buildings, like job buildings, commercial buildings, these kind of things. Okay, what's the problem with radon? Radon is a radioactive gas. So we can breathe radon present in our dwellings, in our buildings, and the radon continue the decay in these other elements you have here that are called daughters of radon. Okay, so in this decay process, radon emits these radon alpha particles. Alpha particles are pretty similar to for example, X-ray particles, but with a lot of more energy. So it's more dangerous for us, can change little things in our DNA, and that's the motive we can develop lung cancer, mostly because radon accumulate, the daughters of radon accumulate in our lungs. So that's the danger of radon. That's the way radon came into our houses, into our buildings. Okay. So we need to pay attention also that this is a global problem. It's not a localized problem in Spain or in United States or in Europe. Probably if we search, if we browse in internet, or we're looking for more maps like this, radon maps, we can find one map for every region, one map for every country, because of the type of soil that are related with radon is very common. Is very common around the world. Is worldwide known. So you can observe these two representative maps of Europe and United States that radon normally is present in more or less the 0.5% of the territory. So we have a global problem. We need global solutions in order to improve our health, in order to avoid this developing of lung cancer. Okay. So let me drink a sip of water, please. Sorry. So let's talk about the current legislation. We will focus on the European legislation, but there are legislation around the world. These studies about radon began in the United States and Canada. So, for example, I don't know, Environmental Protection Agency of United States has a really good legislation, a really good documents. To looking for more information about radon. But we are talking today about the European legislation, and concretely the Directive 2013-59 Euratom. Okay, it's laying down the basic safety standard for protection against the danger arising from exposure to ionizing radiation, okay? And the most important ionizing radiation we know is the radon radiation, okay? This legislation has a lot of articles, but the most representatives are that you have in the screen. We can see in some part of the document that there are a summarize of the recent epidemiological studies, and we can read a significant increase of lung cancer risks from prolonged exposure to indoor radon at levels of order of 100 becquerels cubic meter. Okay, that's the point. Scientists put or set up the threshold, 100 becquerels. But on the other hand, if we look for the real legislation about the threshold in radon, we can see that both in radon workspaces and indoor exposure to radon in general, politicians, European community set up the threshold in 300 becquerels cubic meter. For me, it's clear that this is a political decision, not a scientific decision. And if you study about the, the scientific papers related with radon, we can notice that there is not secure threshold for the exposure to radon. Every concentration of radon is dangerous for us. Can develop can go to the develop of lung cancer. So it's important to notice the difference between the politics threshold and the real health threshold we need to pay attention to. So this is the reality. This is the threshold nowadays. But I want to do this this note about the threshold because it's important, I think. So let's talk about solutions. Okay, how we can prevent, how we can solve the problem with radon, technically speaking. Okay, so if we speak about radon mitigation solutions, we can find two different approaches, okay? Once before the entry of radon in building, okay, we need to avoid the entry of radon on building, but technically speaking, this is very difficult to achieve. So we have other strategies more related with avoid the accumulation of radon inside the building after the entry of radon in the building. Okay, if we check the first approach, the approaches before the entry of radon in building, we can find two different kinds of solution: isolation solutions, architectural solutions, or ventilation solutions. Okay, isolation solutions are related with the prescription of protection barriers. Okay, we will use real barriers, physical barriers, in order to avoid the entrance of radon in the buildings. Okay, as you can see, this is only possible in new buildings, because if we need to use this approach in buildings, old buildings, it is so difficult to remove the soil, put the isolation barrier, and start to build the building again. So in existing buildings, the ventilation solutions are the only approach we need to think, or we need to pay attention. Okay, if we speak about ventilation solution before the entry of radon in building, we will find aerospace ventilation and ground depressurization. We will explain in the next slide these techniques. And after the entry of radon in the building, we will have the living spaces ventilation. That already is, for me, the best option, as we will talk later. Okay, so that's summarize, generally speaking, the main radon mitigation solution we can use in order to avoid the danger of the radon. Okay, so before study deeply the different ventilation strategies, we need to know that there are so many type of dwellings and so many type of buildings, in fact. Okay, and the key factor here is the present or how protect we have our living spaces from the soil, okay, from the foundation, from the ground. You know that there are buildings that are in direct contact with the ground, and we can have another type of buildings with this safe space, air space. In Spain we call it sanitary space, but it's an air space to avoid the direct contact between the ground and the living spaces. Okay, knowing this, we can analyze the different strategies we have seen in the previous scheme. As we speak, protection barriers are the one of the architectural solutions that consists in the isolation of the foundations. Okay, and then we have these other three ventilation solutions. Okay, the first one is the airspace ventilation. As you can see, we need to have this airspace to avoid the contact between the ground and the living spaces. Other option is the ground depressurization using an extractor working continuously in order to avoid the entry of the radon in the spaces. And the other one, the preference one for me, is the ventilation of living spaces ventilation. Let's talk more deeply about these three ventilation solutions. In first place, we can speak about airspace ventilation and ground depressurization. In both of these solutions, we need to use an extractor, and we need to pay attention that normally we use these extractors in continuous system. Okay, we need to assure the no entry of radon in the buildings, and for this reason, this extractor normally works 24 hours. Okay, so paying attention on this, we need to select the more efficient extractor we can. Okay, these two, for example, are in our catalog and are strongly recommended for us because there are the more efficient fans we have in order to can control the total flow we are using and modulate. For example, if we have a proof or we have a sensor that can read radon, is easier to connect with these extractors. Okay, that's two schemes about the different strategies focus on the depressurization. For example, this depressurization strategy is different if we have the airspace than if we don't have it. If we don't have it, we need to use a sump like this. We can build the sump, and we can buy these sumps that are made in plastic, and we need to use it to attract all the radon to the extractor. Okay, we need to use an extractor that we can place in the ceiling, or we can place in the same space. For example, here in the airspace ventilation, we can install the extractor inside this airspace in order to avoid, for example, the noises, or because it's much easier to install in the airspace. So anyway, the strategy basically is the same: to extract the radon previously this entry in the buildings. Okay. The other strategy that I think is the better option because of the advantages of this solution is the ventilation of the living spaces for dwellings and also for other kinds of buildings. Okay, the regular ventilation, mechanical ventilation, is the only strategy to assure a good indoor air quality. And if we talk about radon, we are talking also about indoor air quality. So if we use these mechanical ventilation systems, and we use also, for example, the heat recovery system, we will have some advantages like the improvement of the indoor air quality. We are saving energy, and we are making secure spaces inside our buildings, inside our job buildings. Okay, so let's see, for example, a study case in a dwelling for how to design this ventilation system, because it's a little bit different than a normal system. In a dwelling, for example, doesn't have problem of radons. Okay, so let's imagine this dwelling is the same we use in the previous microlearning session. And let's think about how we need to ventilate this space using one heat recovery system. Okay, in this case, using the Spanish legislation, probably in other countries there will be a little bit different. We need to pay attention in the number of spaces we have. Dry spaces, okay, speaking about the presence of or not of water, and humid spaces. Humid spaces, we will consider the bathroom and the kitchen, for example. So Spanish legislation tell us that the air need to we need to assure that the direction of the air is from the dry spaces to the humid spaces. Okay, so we will supply fresh filtered air by the dry spaces, by the bedrooms, by the saloon, for example, and we will extract by the humid spaces. Okay, if we calculate more or less, as I say, using the Spanish legislation, we will have these total flows. Okay, depends on the type of bedroom, for example, master bedroom or normal bedroom, the size of the living room and the size of the kitchen. Okay, the total flow we calculate will be 120 cubic meter per hour. Okay, we can select, for example, in our catalog this kit that include all the accessories you need to use this installation. For example, the slips, the conduct, the silencers, everything you can find in this kit. Okay, but this is generally speaking the design of a normal dwelling. But imagine this same dwelling with a radon problem. Okay, normally we can measure the radon. There are some specialized companies that measure the radon and can alert us that we have a problem with radon. Imagine what will be the strategy to assure the reduction of this radon concentration. Okay, if you look for the legislation, you will see that we don't have any calculus base to use properly to reduce the amount of radon. Okay, it's very difficult to calculate. It's related with the emission of radon through the soils to the dwellings, and it's not clear. Okay, it's it's in our decision, in our design. It's up to us, for generally speaking. Okay, so our recommendation is to double the total flow we will use, for example, in a normal case. Okay, if we have a problem with radon, we need to double the total flow. Why? Because we are diluting the radon. If we use more fresh air, outdoors we don't have problem with radon because radon only accumulates inside. So we need to use more fresh air in order to renovate properly the indoor spaces and to dilute. Okay, the strategy is the dilution of the radon. Okay, so for example, instead of use that model of heat recovery system that is the AirHome 150, we have with this model we have 150 cubic meter per hour. We will switch to the 300 cubic meter per hour heat recovery system. Okay, we need to do an extra investment, but is for in order to assure our health. And this will be the approach we recommend you to use in case of a radon problem. Okay, as you can see, radon is a massive problem for us. It's an unknown pollutant, but we want to put some light in this problem and to make you think about it. Okay. So we have an extra bonus track before the question time. It's a recommendation for you. If you like it, you enjoy this micro learning program, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on LinkedIn in our official page. You can follow me if you want also, and we will inform you about this free microlearning, this free training programs we are doing every month, every week, almost. So this is my recommendation, my advice for you. Thank you so much for your attention. I will share with you the presentation just now, and you can write down your question in case you have one. Okay, let me share with you the presentation. In case you have problems to download this presentation, you can write me, and I will send you as soon as possible. Okay, but I think you will find this presentation in a couple of seconds. Okay, let me try. Okay, I think you can find now the presentation in document tag. Okay, look for them, and let's start with the question time. Okay, if you have any question, let me drink another sip of water, please. Okay, you have the presentation right now. If you have any problems, you can write me. And I think there is no question. Okay, come on, don't be shy. This is the funniest part of the presentation. Please don't be shy. And if you don't have any question at this moment, we can talk later. You have my contact. Okay, we have one question. Ricardo Mimoso, is there a recommendation to locate the extraction near to the floors? Ricardo, yeah, I think is a better option, because normally the radon is near to the ground, but normally we don't have this option in some of our buildings. Probably in dwellings is not common, but if you have for example an office building, yeah, it's a recommendation to locate the extraction near to the floors. Okay. Okay, we have a demand, not a question for Ferdus Bukal. You never mentioned it using filters. That's right, because of there is no filter capable to retain the radon. Okay, radon is a gas, and filters, mechanical filters, are normally designed to particles, and also we can't use other chemical filters, because radon is as we know, the size of the radon is impossible to trap with this kind of buildings. So the only strategy is the diffusion. The only strategy we know is the ventilation. Okay. And what type of filter I recommend? Okay, Ferdus, I think I answered the question. If not, please send me an email. But as I say, there is not possible filters we can use against radon. Okay, the only option is the ventilation. The only option is the diffusion. Okay, using fresh air in order to reduce the concentration inside the buildings. Okay, let's wait if we have any other questions, and if not, it's been my pleasure being here with you. Ricardo Mimoso has another question. What type of insulation is used in buildings? Okay, it's a plastic insulation. I'm not sure about the proper material. But you can find infinity of companies that commercialize this isolation against radon. Okay, it's an special type of plastic, and is more fixed in the legislation. Okay, is set up the size of this insulation, the length, and this kind of things. Okay, I can't answer you the type of insulation, but you can find you can browse easily on internet, because there are a lot of companies that commercialize these items. Okay. Okay. Any question? More questions? Are you okay? Are you enjoy the presentation? Okay, we have another question. Ferdus also. Um, what do you think is the best way to deal with radon gas in heavy duty industries? Okay, Ferdus, the best option is always, I think, the ventilation of the living space. In this case, the workspace. Okay, we need to assure a correct ventilation, a correct renovation of the air, and the best way is, to introduce fresh air, properly filtered for the particles we have outdoors, and to extract the dirty air. So, okay, my recommendation, my advice for you is, if you are thinking to design a ventilation system, focus on the reduction of radon, uh, oversize. Okay, oversize the extractor, oversize the fan, and design with enough total flow in order to assure the reduction of this gas. We have another question from Ana Figueiredo. It's a really good question. Thank you, Ana. Should we ensure a positive pressure inside the building? That could be another strategy. Okay, if you assure a positive pressure, if you introduce more fresh air than you extract, it will be a ventilation barrier. Okay, you have a positive pressure, and you can assure that radon doesn't enter in the houses or in the buildings. The problem, Anna, mostly in our country, in Spain, is as I said, our legislation said to us that we need to assure, this way of the air from dry spaces to humid spaces. The only way we have to assure this, this way of the air, this transition, is that extraction flows need to be higher than the supply flows. But it's just in our case in Spanish legislation. So my advice for you in other countries is that comment by Ana Figueiredo is a really good point, and is a really good strategy, okay, to assure this positive pressure. Okay, we have another question. Ricardo again. Is there a relation between air humidity and better propagation of radon? Okay, Ricardo, not directly relation, but I think it's a very good question, because there are a relationship between the weather and the radon. Okay, the weather is a key factor for the transmission of the radon through the soils to our buildings. And I like to I like to share with you one example. For example, in rainy days, okay, in rainy days in the regions we have really bad problems with radon. Rainy days are the worst. Why? Because the rain, can enter in the soils and can press the radon to exit. You know, they can't be at the same space. Okay, we have a limited space inside the soils. You know, in this airspace, and if we introduce water in this occasion for the rain, normally we can measure higher concentration of radons inside the building. So it's not air humidity, but the weather is a really key factor in the propagation of radon. Okay, so I'm very happy you have this all question. I hope you enjoy the presentation, you enjoy the micro learning program. We will came back probably after the summer, and thank you so much for being here. Okay, the last question. Okay, Amin, thank you for your presentation. When I can know I have a radon problem? Okay, this is difficult because radon don't have odor, don't have color, and the only way is to do these measures. For example, in Spain, we need to realize we need to do these radon measures in every work places that are under the ground or in the first floor in the workspaces. And in our house, we have this radon map I showed you before, that is an idea that if we need to, you know, contact with a specialized company in radon and made this measure in order to assure if we have radon or not. But it's difficult because you know, it's invisible for us, and we can know. Okay. Okay, last question. I appreciated your interest. Is from Radoslav Bakardis. Uh, is there any sensor to control the ventilation according to radon level in buildings? Yeah, this sensor exists, but nowadays are not as developing as we want. Okay, this control thing is you know, is people is paying more attention nowadays. So these radon sensor are not as good as we know as we want by the moment, but we are working together with other manufacturers in order to have in our catalog this sensor, because it's a really good question, Radoslav, because we need to pay attention also to the energy consumption, and the best way we have is using sensors to control the ventilation system. Okay, so yeah, exist today, are not as good as we want, but we are working on this. Okay. Okay, so let's finish the presentation. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for being here another day, and see you soon, I hope. Bye bye.